pick for 10 teams and will auto draft for the Browns and 49ers because they are not worthy of having picks. I think every mock draft in the entire country has Sam Darnold and the 49ers, whether it's at number 1 or number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and give the 49ers Sam Darnold at number 1. He's off the board. If you want to criticize, I think this is a good fit for Darnold because the offensive tackle, Trent Brown, has finally stepped up at right tackle next to Staley. So Darnold has 2 quality offensive tackles. They just need to get him a number 1 target in round 2, and this team will be ready to go with the defensive additions of Reuben Foster and Solomon Thomas ready to step up in year 2. So I like this pick for the Niners. If either one of you wants to criticize the Niners for taking Sam Darnold, who they're looking at him, they're looking at Rosen, they're looking at Josh Allen. They're not looking at Baker or Lamar or Mason. They're not looking at those guys.
They should be looking at Josh Allen and Baker.
But they're looking at those 3 specific QBs. They're looking at Darnold, Rosen, and Josh Allen, and they've scouted Darnold the most. So that's a clear indicator that they want Darnold if he declares. And I feel like if the Browns get the number 1 pick, Darnold will go back, and it'll cause me to reprogram this entire draft game. So we'll give the 49ers Sam Darnold at number 1. And at number 2, the Cleveland Browns, we'll give them Saquon Barkley. This is the guy Joey wants the Browns to take. And I said it on his show yesterday. I said it yesterday on his show that Saquon Barkley can have an Ezekiel Elliott type of effect in Cleveland, and Kaiser can revert into that game manager role, and he needs that. I mean, let's face it, he needs that.
The Dak Prescott role. Yeah. Yep.
So I know Thomas wants to pick for the Dolphins, who I have on the clock at number 8. So we'll give do you want to pick at 3, Ryan, with the Chicago Bears? Because I think the Denver Broncos are at 21. If we did every 3 picks, you could still pick for the Broncos at 21 in that scenario, and then I would pick at number 4.
I don't know how you do that math, Chris, but that is something special, so I'll say yeah.
All right, so the Chicago Bears are on the clock at number 3. The only players off the board right now are Sam Darnold and Saquon Barkley. Everyone else is still on the board. Who do you want? You could get an edge player like Arden Key. You could get a second offensive tackle to pair with Charles Leno like McGlinchey as a right tackle. You could get a receiver. You could go with Derwin James. Who do you want to take for the Chicago Bears at number 3?
I'll take Mike McGlinchey.
And they get him as a right tackle at number 3. The hometown kid from Notre Dame goes off the board to the Chicago Bears at number 3. And that really screws the Giants here because the Giants needed Mike McGlinchey, and now they have to either reach for a left tackle, but there's no left tackle worth taking here. I mean, Okorafor is a top 10 talent. He's not a top 5 talent. So I'm going to give the Giants Josh Rosen. Now, I want to give the Giants a left tackle and have them build around Eli, but since Ryan took Mike McGlinchey, he screwed up my entire strategy. So now I have to give the Giants Josh Rosen and punish them.
This is my battleship.
Thomas, you're on the board here at number 5, and I'm trying to think who's at number 5 because it's the Jets. The Jets are at number 5. So I just screwed the Jets out of a quarterback with Josh Rosen, unless you want to give them Baker Mayfield at number 5. Do you want to give the Jets Baker Mayfield, or do you feel like they will take another player?
No, they're going to take another player.
What player are you thinking?
Well, I know they have other pressing needs, like especially at receiver, but they also kind of need a running back because, Matt Forte is pretty much doesn't have much left in the tank.
Are we going to piss off Jets fans and give them Bryce Love and have them boo so loudly that Jerry Jones will have to restrain Jets fans from the draft? Are we going to do that? Or are we going to piss off the Jets fans and give them Bryce Love here at number 5?
As much as I would like to, you know what? Let's do it, Chris. Let's piss off the Jets fans.
The New York Jets select Bryce Love at number 5. Boo! The classic boos from Jets fans all across the nation as our atmosphere, Ryan. Any thoughts on this with the Jets taking Bryce Love at number 5 as a running back out of Stanford? Any thoughts on this, Ryan?
I mean, I guess I'm not going to be against it. I'm not necessarily for it either, but I mean,
I don't hate the pick,
no,
but I
I'll
also
just leave it
don't
at that.
love it either. I sort of think it's a reach from a talent standpoint, from a scouting standpoint. However, it's the Jets. They do this type of stuff in the draft every year.
And I'm still salty they beat us this year, and we're looking for payback this week, so yeah.
Yes. But number 6, Ryan, you are on the clock with the what team's on the clock here at number 6? The Chargers. You could get Derwin James out of Florida State. They need a safety. Or you can give them Baker Mayfield and get them QB to groom behind Phillip Rivers.
Ooh.
What do you want to do here, Ryan?
Well, all those are great ideas. I personally think that the Chargers are basically set as far as everything goes. I'm going to probably agree with the Baker Mayfield pick. I feel like if you go ahead and get him over anybody else and let Phillip Rivers groom himself, etc., underneath a young lad, or groom Baker Mayfield underneath him, that it can actually turn into like a deadly combination right there of solid offensive talent. So I'm going to go Baker Mayfield on that, especially because he won't have as many of the turnovers as Phillip Rivers, but he'll still have that cocky attitude that makes Phillip Rivers Phillip Rivers. So I feel like that'd be really good. All
right, so the number 6, the Los Angeles Chargers select Baker Mayfield, and they groom him a la Pat Mahomes. Now, I was hoping the Chargers would take Derwin James at number 6 because they really need a safety, but Ken LeBlanc wants the Browns to take Derwin James at number 1. So we'll make Ken LeBlanc happy, and we'll give the Browns Derwin James to pair up with Jabril Peppers at number 7 with the Texans pick. And your Dolphins are on the clock. Quentin Nelson is right there on the board for your Dolphins at number 8, Thomas. Is that who you're going with, the top guard in the draft at number 8?
Of course.
Yep.
We need all the guard help we can get, and we didn't take a top guard last year, and we were retards for it, so I'm taking Quentin Nelson. Hopefully Isaac Asiata becomes a starter, so that way you pair him up with Laramie Tunsil, Isaac Asiata, Quentin Nelson, Juwan James, and then if Pouncey comes back, if not, then we get a new center, and you're looking at a pretty good young offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, the Jaguars are on the clock at number 9 now. That's just how it turned out. I'm going off the mock draft that I did last week, not the actual official NFL standings. So, I mean, the Jaguars, they don't need a player like Arden Key off the edge. The top player after Arden Key is Mason Rudolph on my board. We could also give the Jaguars Lamar Jackson, though. He's also still on the board at number 9. Ryan, you pick with the Jaguars. If they're picking at 9, do they get a QB and release Blake Bortles to clear cap space, or do they what do they do?
Bortles, right?
What are you going to do with number 9 pick? You could also go with a receiver here. With Allen Robinson being a free agent, you could also go with a receiver here at number 9. What do you want to do, Ryan?
All right. Who else available right now?
All the receivers are on the board. Mason's on the board. Lamar's on the board. None of the guards, though, that would help Jacksonville are on the board. But
you know what? I'm going to go ahead and stick with my gut on this one and go with Lamar Jackson.
Damn it! Don't refresh my boy Bortles.
They don't have to start Lamar right away. They can sit him for a year and let Bortles play his contract out. Let him develop.
Exactly.
So Lamar comes off the board.
If he develops underneath Bortles, he has a chance to develop that pocket game too.
Yeah. So number 9, the Jaguars take Lamar Jackson here at number 9, and that brings us to number 10, the Cincinnati Bengals, and they need offensive line help. So we're going to give them Chukwuma Okorafor, my preseason number 2 offensive tackle. They need an offensive tackle in the trenches really badly to replace Andrew Whitworth. So they get Okorafor at number 10. Thomas, the number 11 team on the board is the Green Bay Packers. They could get Arden Key, the top player on my board, as a pass rusher for depth behind Clay Matthews. They could also get the number 2 players, Mason Rudolph. The guy I gave them was James Washington. But what do you think the Packers do if they're picking this high at 11? I don't think they pick this high, but if they theoretically do, what direction would the Packers go in here? Because there's a lot of players still on the board.
Well, this might surprise some of you guys, but I think they should go Darius Geis.
Wow. Darius Geis comes off the board here. And Darius Geis, my preseason #1 running back. 3 running backs gone in the top 11. We see a run on running backs. So all the first-round running backs are now off the board here. And we'll see what happens. Number 12 is, I believe the number 12 pick belongs to the Buffalo Bills. And what would the Bills do here at number 12? You can get, if the Bills are 7-9, there's a number of options.
Let's piss Mark Scubia off.
We should. I've had Mark Suba on some of my older podcasts. Ryan, what do you want to do with the Bills at 12? Mark wants Minka Fitzpatrick out of Alabama. So are we going to give Mark what we want, or are we going to give him one of the Oklahoma State players in James Washington or Mason Rudolph at number 12?
In this scenario, dude, Tyrod Taylor staying.
Who?
I didn't understand what he said.
What did you say, Ryan? Can you speak louder?
Does this scenario involve Tyrod Taylor staying with Buffalo or leaving Buffalo?
That's up to you, Ryan.
I'm going to say if Tyrod Taylor stays in Buffalo, let's go ahead and get James Washington out of
Yes.
Yeah, and James Washington comes to Buffalo. The Dallas Cowboys are on the clock at number 13. I am picking for them, so I'm going to go with Bradley Chubb and pass on Arden Key because Bradley Chubb runs a 43 scheme, which fits Dallas more so, and Chubb and Charlton is a scary tandem for years to come. So Bradley Chubb to Dallas at 13. Number 14 is the Baltimore Ravens. The top 3 players on the board right now are Arden Key, Mason Rudolph, and Minka Fitzpatrick. And they just took Marlon Humphrey. They drafted a lot of pass rushers. I don't think any of these players fit a need. The Ravens could go Rashaan Evans here, but the Ravens really need a running back, and all the first-round running backs are off the board. So the Ravens are kind of screwed in this scenario here. So what do the Ravens do at 14, Thomas? Do they get the next best receiver?
Who's the next best receiver you got?
Next best receiver on my draft game is Anthony Miller out of Memphis. He had 100 yards on UCLA.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
Something Kirk.
Let's see. They are pretty inept at offense, huh?
Anthony Johnson out of Buffalo had a big week 2. He's my number 3 receiver at the moment. Jake Wieneke is my number 4 receiver for South Dakota State. I have
Christian Kirk at?
Christian Kirk fell to round 2, but he's my favorite receiver, and I have no problem with mocking him to the Ravens since he's still on the board here at number 13.
No, I'm not giving the Ravens his skills. Your top 3 receivers is surprising to me, to be honest.
Anthony Miller had 200 yards and 4 touchdowns on the same Connecticut defense that Cortland Sutton only had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns on. So Anthony Miller's legit. Like him or not, he's legit. Chris Carter even said he's a first-round receiver on Twitter.
Yeah, I know he's good. I like the guy. Let's see here. How big's Anthony Miller?
5'11", 190, same height as Kirk. Anthony Johnson out of Buffalo is 6 foot, 207 pounds, 6'2", 207.
You know what? I'm just going to give him Cortland Sutton.
Interesting. I have Cortland Sutton at number 49 on the draft game. I've got to scroll a ways down. I have like 10 receivers ahead of Cortland Sutton because of the catch radius thing. But Cortland Sutton, they might fall head over heels for Cortland Sutton. So it's not a bad pick. Most other draft people have him way higher than I do. So I'm not going to fault you for that. And it's the Ravens.
Yeah, the reason why I put him there is because he has the look of like an NFL #1 receiver, and that's why I think the Ravens would be in love with him. So that's why I connected with that pick.
He doesn't play the part consistently, but he looks the part, and that's why scouts are salivating over him because He's not consistent. He's not a finished product, but people just love his size and big playability and speed. They're overlooking everything else, thinking they can coach that up.
Yep, I think he just needs to get paid because, I mean, he showed the skill. He knows he's on the radar right now, and now at this point, he's just like, hey, get me paid and get me in a system. I mean, he's coming at a smaller school. It's not like he's competing for a national championship right off the bat. So I think that's the big thing, too, is he wants to be on a winning team.
Oakland Raiders are on the clock at number 15, Ryan. There's a lot of players on the board. The top 3 players are Arden Key, the pass rusher out of LSU, who's a 34 guy. The Raiders run a 43. Mason Rudolph is still on the board. Minka Fitzpatrick's on the board. And then the next best player is Rashawn Evans, the Alabama linebacker, who's on the board. The Raiders, they got Navarro Bowman at middle linebacker. Do they still go with a linebacker in this scenario, or do they take someone else, Ryan? What do you want to do with the Raiders at 15?
You know, based on what I saw on last night's game, I saw a very powerful offense, but then I also saw a defense that kind of gave up too many chances as well. So I'm going to go ahead, though. I think that what they need is a solid secondary player, so I'm going to go with Minka Fitzpatrick.
And they get Minka Fitzpatrick. The Raiders get Minka Fitzpatrick at 15. They drafted Garyon Conley in the first round, but he has not panned out. So the Raiders go secondary in the first round for the 3rd year in a row. Sorry, Raider fans. Ryan's a Broncos fan. We apologize. The Broncos fan in him has caused him to torture the Raiders, and we apologize for that here at Draft Utopia. The Detroit Lions are on the clock at number 6. The Lions are on the clock at 16 here, and I'm going to go Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle out of Clemson. He just fits what the Lions want to do, and he gives them that big-time player in the interior. They lack that since Sue and Fairley have left. Haloti Ngata is a free agent, and logistically, this pick makes a lot of sense here. Thomas picks for the Rams at number 17, and Thomas could replace Thomas could replace Jared Goff with Mason Rudolph. He could. I don't think he will with how good Goff's playing right now, but he could, and that's the scary thing. I mean, Arden Key would fit that 34 defense as well. He's on the board. Connor Williams gives him help with the offensive line if he declares coming off an injury. So what do you think the Rams do here at 17, Thomas?
As much as I hate Jared Goff, you are right. He's playing good football right now. So I'm going to give him Arden Key.
Arden Key falls off the board at 17. He goes to the Rams. And Ryan's on the clock here at number 18. And the team picking at number 18 here is the Arizona Cardinals. Do they get Mason Rudolph here at number 18, Ryan, with him being the only QB left and him being only number 1 QB, only round 1 QB left on the board? Does he go to the Cardinals here at 18, Ryan?
Now, hear me out. I would say yes, but I feel like the better quarterback. Who all is available for the quarterback?
Well, Sam Darnold went to the 49ers at number 1. The Giants got Josh Rosen at number 4 because you took McGlinchey at 3 with the Bears. Baker Mayfield went number 6 overall to the Chargers. Thanks to Thomas, or no, thanks to you with your second pick. You gave the Chargers Baker Mayfield, and you gave the Jaguars Lamar. So Mason's the only QB left, unless you want to reach for a round 2 QB like Allen or Falk, who had 5 interceptions, or Browning. So Mason's really the only guy the Cardinals can get if they want a quarterback here. And he's the best player on my draft game at this point that's still on the board.
You know, I'm going to go ahead and go with Mason. Based on all those things that you just told me, I would take Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph to the Cardinals at number 18. Number 19, the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock. And I'm debating whether to go Connor Williams or Ronnie Harrison, because Connor Williams boosts that offensive line, but Ronnie Harrison is a special safety and a game changer, and I just like him better on tape. So I'm going to go. I know the philosophy is to take the best player on the board, but the Falcons are set at linebacker. They don't need Rashawn Evans. Connor Williams has some injury problems. I don't think they're going to be comfortable with that. So I think they go with Ronnie Harrison out of Alabama at number 19 and pair him with Keanu Neal. Next up at number 20 is the Saints, and Thomas will be picking for the Saints at number 20 At number 20, he'll be picking for the Saints. So what do you want to do here, Thomas? Do you want to give them a linebacker, an offensive lineman, or a pass rusher to pair with Cameron Jordan like Clelin Ferrell?
I think personally, I think they need Jesus, specifically on the defensive side. So I'm going to go ahead and go with defense here. Who is the top linebacker available?
The top linebacker available is Rashaan Evans out of Alabama. He's also the best player on the board.
Okay, who's the pass rusher you said that was available?
The pass rusher is Clelin Ferrell out of Clemson. And the other player they could go on defense is defensive tackle Daron Payne, who I mocked to Denver at 21. So you could keep Ryan from getting the defensive lineman that Denver could use here too at number 20, right before his Broncos pick.
Colin Farrell, like the actor Colin Farrell?
Clelin Ferrell.
Oh. I'm going to give him the Alabama linebacker. What's his name?
Rashaan Evans?
Yeah.
So the Saints select Rashaan Evans at number 20. Number 21, the Broncos are on the clock here, and the best player on the board is offensive lineman Connor Williams, who you could get as a right tackle next to Bowles. But you could also get Daron Payne as a 3-down defensive lineman at defensive nose tackle to bolster this defense, which is what Josiah wants the Broncos to do. Orlando Brown is also on the board, so you could get Orlando Brown as a right tackle and pair him up with Bowles. What do you want to do here, Ryan?
Ryan.
It's Ryan's pick. The Broncos are on the clock. His team's on the clock.
I'm going with Connor Williams. I want the right tackle to pair up with Bowles.
Even though you're a huge Orlando Brown fan, you're still going with Williams because he's my best player on the board here?
I really like Orlando Brown, but I feel like Connor Williams kind of has that big Texas attitude that I feel like our offensive line needs, and I feel like he would be that same type of attitude that Garrett Bowles has, and I feel like when that pro day happens, he'll impress a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Excellent value there. He's my number 1 player on the board as well at this point, so that's an excellent pick for Denver. Number 22 is the Colts. I have them going 8-8 and making a wild card. Clelin Ferrell doesn't really fit what the Colts want to do. Neither does Daron Payne. I'm going to give them Ogbonigba Onkwarko out of Oklahoma, the edge player, who's 6'1", 241. Okoronkwo. Yeah, I'm giving him to the Colts at 22.
That's a good pick.
And the Seahawks are on the clock at 23, Thomas. And they need a left tackle really badly. Do we get back-to-back Sooners here with Orlando Brown going to Seattle, Thomas?
Since I hate Seattle, I'm going to screw them over here. What other needs do they have or need? You know what? Never mind. I hate Russell Wilson getting pressured like that, so I'm going to help him out and give him the left tackle that you're talking about.
Orlando Brown of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then number 24, Ryan gets to pick for his next favorite team, the Vikings. How ironic. I'm sure you love it that the Vikings are at 24 and the Broncos are at 21, and you get to pick for both teams back-to-back here, starting at 24.
You know what? I'm actually thrilled to death about that. Right now, I'm trying to think of who the Vikings would need that would be available.
They could get a receiver here. There's a ton of good receivers outside of Sutton and James Washington.
They have good receivers.
Yeah, look how good their receivers are already, Chris.
They got Treadwell in the first round 2 years ago. He hasn't panned out yet. They've got Thielen. They've got Diggs. Receivers not an immediate priority, but it's there if they want to go that route. They could go Daron Payne, the 3-down defensive tackle out of Alabama here, because Sharif Floyd has never played a full 16-game season, and Daron Payne's right on the board here. I don't think they would go Clelin Ferrell out of Clemson. He's the best overall player, but other than that, I'm not sure what they would do. Edmonds is a linebacker. They could go Harold Landry out of Boston College, but mainly the best players on the board are all receivers at this point. So the Broncos, what position do you think the Vikings will target in the first round? I don't think it'll be a QB. I'm thinking it'll be either a QB, a guard, or a receiver, and there's no guards available until the 3rd round. This is a very tough spot for the Vikings to be in, Are there any players that you think are surprise players or players we need to keep a better eye on? I know Washington and Sutton are gone, but every other receiver's on the board.
I think there is.
Excellent. I think that there definitely are some positional players that are available, but would be the best available tight end right now.
Adam Brennan out of UMass is my #1 tight end, but I have him at number 76 on the board. So that would be a big
My
reach.
top tight end is Laulu Pututau from BYU.
I don't have him on the draft game, but I'm not sure what the Vikings would do here. I'm guessing defensive tackle. If they don't go receiver, they could get the Alabama defensive tackle to replace Sharif Floyd, because Floyd's never been able to play a 16-game season. That's a huge problem. So,
you know, I'm going to agree with you on that, Chris. That's actually some really good logic. I like that.
So we'll go Daron Payne. This is a tough situation for the Vikings, but they get Daron Payne at 24. Number 25, the Carolina Panthers are up. I'm picking for the Panthers. Now we're going to go with Anthony Miller. It's Miller time in Carolina. Get your Miller time beer out, Cam Newton. Go ahead and dab when you score and drink some Miller time, because you're going to be throwing it to Anthony Miller. You're going to be throwing a lot of touchdowns to Anthony Miller. So Cam Newton gets Anthony Miller to pair with Christian McCaffrey and that offense if Kelvin Benjamin leaves. And he's that kind of slot receiver the Panthers fall in love with. I know they already got one of those guys in Curtis Samuel, but they're going to go with Anthony Miller here. They take Miller time here. And number 26, the Washington Redskins are on the board. All the best players on my board right now are receivers, and Pryor's a free agent at the end of the year. Does Washington take a receiver here, or do they go with a linebacker like Tremaine Edmonds out of Virginia? Because 3 of their linebackers are free agents, and the Steelers are up next, and they need a linebacker too.
Who are the Redskins receivers right now?
Terrell Pryor, he's in a contract year. Their number 2 target is their number 2 target outside of Pryor is Josh Dotson, their first-round pick. They also got Crowder out of Duke. So they've got some solid weapons, but they could use one more if Pryor leaves.
Okay, who are their linebackers?
They've got Mason Foster, contract year. They've got another linebacker in a contract year, and they added a Zach Wood or whatever his name is from North Carolina, who 1-year deal. So
how are their DBs looking?
Their safeties, the problem is there aren't really any safeties on the board. They're loaded at corner, but there's not really any safeties on the board that are first-round material.
All right, I'll give them a receiver. Who are your top receivers?
Well, Anthony Johnson is my top receiver out of Buffalo. Jake Weineke out of South Dakota State's also there. The only receivers off the board right now are Washington, Sutton, and Anthony Miller out of Memphis. Christian Kirk is available. Do you want to give Washington Christian Kirk here at 26?
No, I want to give him Jake Weineke.
All right, so they go Jake Weineke, who I have to Washington in my mock draft at 26. The South Dakota State receiver goes to Washington. And now the Pittsburgh Steelers are up on the clock, Ryan. Do they go with Tremaine Edmonds? Their biggest needs at inside linebacker. They need someone next to Shazier. Do they go Edmonds here? 6'5", 250, 4'5", 40 time, projected to run a 4.5 flat. Is that who the Steelers get here at 27 with this pick, Ryan?
Yeah, I'll go with Edmonton at that point.
All right, number 28 is the Tennessee Titans. They already have enough weapons with Decker, with Corey Davis, I know Corey Davis hasn't played these past few games, but they have enough weapons. We're going to go Joshua Allen out of Kentucky. Sorry, Thomas. Josh Allen out of Wyoming has to wait. And Ryan could have picked Josh Allen to go ahead, and we'll see what's on the board. But you get to pick for Tampa Bay here at 29, and I'm feeling like Harold Landry and Isaiah Oliver out of Colorado are the 2 best players on the board defensively. So is that the route you're going to take, Harold Landry out of Boston College, or do you want to get another defensive end? Or another defensive player. Holton Hill's still on the board. Jair Alexander's still on the board. Tarvaris McFadden's still on the board. Jordan Whitehead, the Pitt safety's on the board.
pretty good with Hargraves and Brent Grimes.
Yeah. The receivers are pretty good too. So this is
yeah.
tough.
I personally think Harold Landry is a second rounder based on the tape that I showed you that one day.
I saw that game live. So if you don't want to take Harold Landry, I'll scroll down to my second round prospects, and you can torture the other city in Florida by reaching for someone here. Archie Lewis out of Boise State still on the board if you want to take him here. He's the left tackle. He's a right tackle, but
let's give him McFadden.
Tarvaris?
No, not McFadden. No. I meant Archie Lewis.
Archie Lewis, the Boise State offensive tackle. We'll go with him then. It's a good pick for them. I have him to the Raiders at 46 in my real mock draft, but we'll give them him at number 29, and then each of us gets to make a final pick. And I'm gonna give Thomas the chance to pick for the Eagles at 31 because I want to pick for the Patriots at 32. Ryan, you get to pick for the team at 30 though. That's the Buffalo Bills. You get to pick for Mark once again. You went James Washington before. And the best players on the board are receivers. So does Buffalo double up at receiver, or do they get a corner like Oliver to pair with Jair Alexander to keep the Patriots from hitting a corner?
Shit, that's a good question. I'm going to go with, who was the corner that you had mentioned?
Oliver, 6'1", 193.
Now, what other corners are available at this point?
There's quite a few. There's Holton Hill out of Texas who can play corner or safety, 6'3", 200 pounds. There's Jair Alexander out of Louisville, who's the preseason #1 corner. And there's Tarvaris McFadden out of Florida State. There's quite a few corners still on the board, Ryan.
There's Tyler Horton from Boise State. There's Jalen Davis from Utah State.
I haven't added those guys to the draft game, but I'll get to that when you get a second.
I am probably going to go ahead and go with Jair Alexander.
So the Buffalo Bills get Jair Alexander after getting James Washington. So that's their first round. Thomas, you're up for the Eagles. There's a lot of good receivers still on the board. You could get Christian Kirk here with your final. You could get Carson Wentz, another weapon in Christian Kirk if you want to.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them Philly boys some Christian Kirk up in this place.
And the Patriots are up at 32. And while we could use a big weapon like Anthony Johnson, I feel like this draft is very deep at wide receiver. And I'm going to go Isaiah Oliver. I know I should take the best player on the board, like Mark says, but we still have a lot of good weapons. I think Anthony Johnson could be special, but I just feel like Isaiah Oliver, we're going to move on from Malcolm Butler. That's going to make cornerback our top need. And since I have a first-round grade on Oliver, since I mocked Oliver to the Patriots, Oliver is the pick. The Colorado Buffaloes corner goes to the Patriots at 32, and we'll reveal some of the players that failed around 2 really quickly. Anthony Johnson, who's number 25 on my board, fell around 2. Harold Landry fell around 2. Calvin Ridley out of Alabama fell around 2. Auden Tate fell around 2. Alan Lazard fell around 2. Simi Cobbs Jr. fell around 2. So a lot of these teams.
I forgot about Lazard.
Lazard could be a great fit for a team like the 49ers when he's paired with Darnold. And then Mark will blame Lazard. You'll blame Darnold. It'll be great. It'll be a hoot if that happens in real life. But, like, Whitehead fell around 2. So there's a lot of guys who fell around 2. I'm not going to read through the entire list. Josh Allen fell around 2. So there's a lot of guys who fell around 2. But the point is, there were 3 players out of my top. Only 3 players in my top 32 fell to the second round. So that's pretty good.
It's not bad.
Good job, guys. So that's the draft game on Google Hangouts. What we're going to do now is we're going to get to some NFL predictions. And if we finish all of our predictions by 4 p.m., we can start round 2 of the draft game. But I really want to keep it at 1 round. Is that fair?
How about we do like 5 picks in the second round?
right now, just the first 5 picks, and then we go to
Or at
predictions?
least,
What do you want to do, Ryan?
Or at least, I don't want to specify one more time.
Keep going with the pick. Or not the pick. Well, let's do the predictions, I should say.
I agree, Ryan. We need to do the predictions, and then if we finish all of the other 14 games by 4 p.m., we can. If we finish all of the predictions by 4 p.m., we can start round 2 of the draft game and see where we get to before time runs out. Because we're not going to podcast past 4, and we will leave the draft game up on our Google Hangout because we might start round 2. It's something we're on the fence about right now at the moment. And the first game is in Tampa Bay. They go to Buffalo. They face the Bills. I'm going with Buffalo in this game. Their defense is just too good right now. But this is a game that it was 3-2 in favor of Buffalo. It was not a lock by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to go with Buffalo at home against Tampa Bay.
That's hard, so I'm going Buffalo too.
Ryan, you going Tampa Bay or Buffalo?
As far as that goes, I mean, Tampa Bay has been playing a little shaky for me. I feel like Buffalo has actually been playing like the close games and seems to really be picking up on like games and everything as far as like what they need to be doing. So I am probably going to go with Buffalo on this, and I will say the spread will probably be like, I'm thinking probably like 54 points. No, that's too much. What's 24 plus 24?
48. The over-under is 41, and I definitely – wait, that's for the Cincinnati game. The over-under for that is 41. But I'm going to – the over-under for the Buffalo game is – let me get that really quickly. My computer's being a little slow right now at the moment, but nothing's freezing. It's just a little bit slow. The over-under is 40 points. It's very low. So I'm going with Buffalo in the over in this game. But the over-under at 40 points is very low, much lower than it should be.
All right, next game.
Ryan didn't make his pick yet.
Oh.
He wanted
I
to
did.
So
Yeah, I did.
So Ryan's going with the Bills.
Yeah, I did. There you go.
Bengals play the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and I think this is going to be a very close game. I'm going to go with the Bengals, though, in an upset win, 28-27. And both these teams have good number 1 corners, Drake Kirkpatrick, Joe Hayden. They both have number 1 receivers in A.J. Green and Antonio Brown. So whichever team wins the receiver-cornerback matchup is going to be the team that wins this game. And I'm going to go with the Bengals in a shootout, 28-27 over the Steelers in an upset this week.
I'm going Cincinnati by 3. Who do you got, Ryan?
Who was playing again?
It's Steelers. It's Cincinnati and Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh.
I'll go Steelers because they're in Pittsburgh, and not to mention they actually played pretty good last week, so I'll say Steelers.
Ryan's going to pick the Steelers, and the Steelers are still my pick to win the division, but I'm picking the Bengals to win this game. And I'm going to give Ryan's preseason prediction of the Bengals winning this division some hope for another week. Next game features Baltimore and Minnesota. It's in Minnesota. Minnesota might get Bridgewater back. I'm taking the Vikings. This team does not lose at home. And the one game they lost at home was to the Lions. So I'm going to take the Vikings 23-21 by 2 points over the Ravens.
I'm taking Minnesota, but I don't think I know they'll have Bridgewater back, but I don't think he's playing this week because Case Keenum's playing pretty good football. So I just keep sticking with him. And I got them winning by 3 as well. Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going Vikings. I think that they're going to start Bridgewater, though.
Interesting. Next game features the Jets and the Dolphins. It's in Miami. And I'm going with a shutout. Dolphins 28, Jets 0. The Dolphins deliver the goose egg to the Jets.
Miami's hungry for them Jets after they embarrassed us the last time. Miami's got the momentum in the world now after they defeat that defending NFC champion. They got the world on their side. They got to take down the Jets. They got to stop a Michael right through them. Stone Cold Steve Austin style. I'm taking Miami by 2 touchdowns, baby. Let's go. Woo!
And the Jets, 3 out of 5 people at Draft Utopia picked the Jets. It's the first time this happened. I figured Donald Trump would have a better chance of getting reelected than 3 out of 5 people picking the Jets in any one week this season, but last time.
They're going to run this Sunday. They usually don't ever choose against the Dolphins when they hungry against them Jets. They're going to learn.
All right.
Who you got, Ryan?
I am going to go with the Jets.
Ryan is sided with the people of Draft Utopia over Chris Ransom. Oren, Jesse, and Jason all picked the Jets over the Dolphins this weekend. So Oren is siding with the people of Draft Utopia versus Chris Ransom this weekend.
Wait, who are the other people that chose?
Oren Shiri, Jesse Lucas, and Jason Bantle, 3 of the writers who help out the picks page. They all went with the Jets over the Dolphins. So Ryan is siding with the people of Draft Utopia over me. And that's okay. Let's move on to London. Let's move on to London.
The Dolphins played a really good game of football. A strong team and all that, but just I really feel like the Jets are actually starting to pick up a little bit, and I feel like the Dolphins is a joke. No offense at all.
You're going to learn today, Ryan. You're going to learn today.
The next game features the Cardinals and the Rams in London. It's at 1 p.m., not at the early time at 9 a.m. It's at 1 p.m. So it's in London. I'm taking the Rams. This is the first of our 4 Draft Utopia locks of the week. The Rams are a unanimous pick here to win. Are either one of you guys going to crack the lock this week by picking the Cardinals over the Rams in London?
You know what? I still believe in Arizona's defense, despite them playing bad lately. They're still a good defense.
They lost Marcus Golden to injured reserve, so that means Chandler Jones.
Well, that's that. Okay, I choose the Rams. Brian.
Yeah, I think the Rams.
Next game features the Panthers and the Bears. And surprisingly, this isn't a lock of the week, which is shocking. Someone picks the Bears. Someone picks the Bears each week. I know week 1, Jesse picked the Bears over the Falcons. Week 3, Tanya picked the Bears over the Steelers. For some reason, the Bears have avoided being a lock all season, excluding the week 2 and week 4 games against the Packers and their week 2 contest. But the Panthers and the Bears, I'm going to say the Panthers win this game, but Trubisky has a 3-touchdown, no interception career day against this defense, and he actually plays like he doesn't suck this week. So the Bears lose, but Trubisky has a great game. He has his best game of his career so far. But the Panthers will win 28-21.
I'm choosing Carolina 45-10. Trubisky throws 2 picks and fumbles twice.
Yes. All right, Ryan, what do you think?
I guess I'm going to go ahead and go with the Carolina Panthers. And I feel like Cam Newton goes 3 touchdowns for 320 yards.
Excellent. The next game is the Titans and the Browns in Cleveland. I'm going with the Titans 17-13 in a defensive game where the Browns cover the spread. Kaiser is starting again, and Mariota had to rely on staying in the pocket with his injury. So he won't have that luxury against the Browns. That'll be a defensive game, but the Titans will do just enough to win this game. The Titans are our second lock of the week on Draft Utopia. Is either one of you going to crack the locks here? Neither one of you cracked the lock with the Rams-Cardinals game. Is either one of you going to crack the lock and pick the Browns?
No, I'm choosing the Titans. Mariota just came off his best game of the year last week, even despite being injured. And we all thought that Monday night game was going to be boring as hell, but it turned out it wasn't. So I'm choosing Marcus Mariota, going with the Oregon boy in Tennessee.
Yep.
Ryan, who you got?
You know, my head says pick the Titans, but my heart says pick the Browns because Deshaun Kaiser are going to come on and come in motivated. You get benched, then you get a pep talk from the coach saying, hey, got to do this, kid. And next thing you know, he's saying he's excited. So I got to go with Cleveland on this. I'm going to say that they win. They're going to squeak one out. It's going to be 28-27.
Next up, we have the Saints and the Packers. And I did originally pick the Browns to win this game back in the preseason before changing my pick. Saints, Packers, it's in Green Bay. I'm going to go with the Saints 30-20. They win. Without Aaron Rodgers, the Packers are lost. And Joe Buck's calling the Astros game if they go to Game 7. Wait, Game 7's tomorrow night. Game 6 is tonight. So Joe Buck can call this game, and he can still call an NFL game the next day. He can do a double. Fox can work him into overtime or whip him like a horse at the Kentucky Derby.
I got Green Bay. It's hard to win in Lambeau. Regardless of who's at quarterback, it's going to be hard to win.
That's an interesting selection. 2 of the 3 writers at Draft Utopia picked the Packers. So, including the person in the overall lead, they picked the Packers this weekend. So, just saying.
Yeah, it's hard to win in Lambeau, and I think Brett Hundley's capable of.
He didn't get any practice reps before the Vikings game. He's gotten an entire week of practice now.
Yeah. So, who you got, Ryan?
Saints.
Brian's picking the Saints like myself. Next up, we've got the Jaguars and the Colts from Indianapolis. I'm going Colts 17, Jaguars 16.
I'm going Jags. I mean, they've been hot and cold this week, or this year, all year. I think it's mostly due to coaching. They lost last week, so I think they get a W again this week. I think Leonard Fournette rips the Colts a new asshole twice times over. And I think they give Jacoby Brissett a horrible time defensively. So I got the Jags winning 3 scores.
I'm going with the Colts by a point in upset. You, Ryan?
I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars win, and I think that they win probably 28-20. And I'm going to say Leonard Fournette has 153 yards.
Next up, we have Dallas and the 49ers. This is our 3rd lock of the week. CJ Beathard is making his first start, and I'm going with the Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott's still rule eligible, so his suspension may not take place until week 8 or week 9. So I'm going Cowboys. They whoop the 49ers. This is our 3rd lock of the week.
I'm going for your lock, actually. I think the Rams or the 49ers are going to get the upset. Dallas hasn't been playing very well. And despite the 49ers record, they have played in some pretty close games. So I think Dallas is secondary, as always, is suspect. I think CJ Beathard can rip them a new one. And I'm going to take the 49ers in the upset.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I agree. I think they take the 49ers to a whole new level of hurt. I think it's going to be probably 14-34.
So you take the Niners?
No, Cowboys.
Oh.
I'm not crazy.
Yes, you are, but I'm more crazy.
Shh, Thomas. Shh. The adults are talking. All right.
Next game is the Seahawks and the Giants. This is our final lock of the week. Seattle's a lock in this game. Do the Giants continue what they did against Denver, or was that a fluke win? I mean, the Legion of Boom doesn't get to see Odell Beckham, so.
I don't think it was a fluke win. I think they got the win because of all the adversity they're facing. But I don't think they're going to continue it against Seattle this week. I got Seattle.
This is my upset of the alert, because I feel like the Giants definitely can win this game. The victory against Denver was not a fluke. I watched the game. As hard as that was to watch and swallow, that was so difficult. But I will definitely say that Eli goes off again. I feel like the Giants are a team that realize, hey, we don't have our starting receivers, so they're actually playing with a fire underneath their belt.
Pete Carroll has never lost in MetLife Stadium. Jason Bannell brought that stat to me. He said that Pete Carroll's 4-0 versus the Giants in MetLife Stadium, and they beat the Jets last year in New York. So Pete Carroll is 5-0 in MetLife Stadium when you take that into account. I like the Seahawks. Ryan's picking the upset. He's cracked 2 locks. Thomas has only cracked 1. Next game is Broncos-Chargers. Joey and I actually disagreed on this game on the Evolution Network yesterday. Joey took the Chargers. I took the Broncos, 24-21, with Denver winning by a field goal once again.
That's why I like you, Chris. You know football. Denver will win this game.
Denver will win this game.
I originally had the Chargers winning this game back in July, for the record, but I flip-flopped to Denver at the last minute. So, because I refuse to have 3, 6, and 10 teams in my mock draft. I refuse to have 3, 6, and 10 teams. So the Chargers get screwed out of a win this week. Next up, we have the Falcons and the Patriots in a Super Bowl 51 rematch. I want to see James White, number 28, Stephen Gostkowski, number 3, take the coin toss to remind the Falcons of the lead they blew. Please make it happen, New England.
I hope to do that too, to be honest.
Because it's the best way to troll the Falcons, and it would go so under the radar that nobody would notice it until the game started.
They should also somehow do like a 17-0, the lead they had against Miami. So both of our teams can rub it in their faces. Because we basically softened them up for you guys this week.
Yep. The Falcons, I'm going 34-28. Patriots win in overtime. This game goes to overtime just like 51, and the Patriots win.
I'm going
Patriots. Was this game a lock or not?
No. 3 people pick the Patriots and 2 people pick the Falcons.
Where is it at?
It's in New England.
Oh, I'm going to go with New England.
Patriots.
17-14.
Patriots.
The final game features Washington and Philadelphia in Philadelphia. The only person who picked Washington was Tanya. Everyone else picked Philadelphia. So, yeah, I'm guessing we're both on board with Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I want to say Philadelphia, but once again, I'm a little hesitant just because Washington has elevated their gameplay. But since it is Philadelphia, I'll go ahead and say Philadelphia 24-21.
All right. Coming up on Sunday's podcast, we'll have we'll try to break down the receiver rankings. I'll try to do that tonight or tomorrow, where I'll update all the receiver rankings and get the SWAT reports up for the receivers and update that so I can break down the receivers in depth. If we don't get that updated, I don't know what we've got planned for Sunday, because we've already talked about the things on the Evolution Network on Sunday. And since I'm letting Thomas produce next Friday's show, since the Dolphins are playing, since Oregon State's playing, I might put Ryan in charge. I don't know what I'm going to do for Sunday yet, but I do know that we have something planned for Sunday at 9 a.m. Maybe let Ryan and Joey each have an hour to the show. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet with that. But before we sign off, we will play the final 3 minutes. We will start the second round of the draft game and play the final 3 minutes of the draft game. 2 minutes now because it's 3:58. But right now it is 3:58. We started this thing at 2:03 actually, so that means we're technically still on the air for about 6 more minutes if you want. I can do 3 to 6 minutes where we can knock out some picks. All right, let's do 6 minutes. So until the video thing hits 2 hours on the QuickTime player, we'll be on the clock. Time is money here. Number 33, the number 2 pick, 49ers are on the clock at number 33. What receiver do they get to pair with Sam Darnold? Well, should we give him Anthony Johnson out of Buffalo since he's the best player on the board? I think we'll do that, and we'll auto draft for the Browns. The Browns, and they get Calvin Ridley here because he's the best receiver on the board. Now we're back to the Giants. They pick here. Ryan picked for the Giants in round 1. He went with I picked for the Giants in round 1. And I went with Rosen. So the Giants really do need a left tackle, though. But I'm going to give the Giants Auden Tate with Brandon Marshall being a free agent. And that's going to give Ryan the chance to draft Alan Lazard for Mitchell Trubisky if he wants to take him here at 30.
Oh. I will go with Alan Lazard.
And that means the Jets are up. And the Jets, they went with, they passed on a quarterback in the first round. They went with Bryce Love. Simmie Cobbs Jr., the receiver out of Indiana, is the top receiver on the board here.
Who? What's his name?
Simmie Cobbs Jr. out of Indiana. He's the top receiver on the board.
I disagree, but that's okay.
You want to take someone else like McFadden, the corner from Florida State here? Because the Jets do need another corner to pair with Claiborne.
Give him McFadden.
All right, the Jets get Tarvaris McFadden. Next up at number 36, we have the Dolphins. I believe the Dolphins pick at 37.
Dang it, I want to pick for Dolphins.
You can pick for the Dolphins too, Thomas. You can have back-to-back picks here. Do you want a cornerback / safety like Holton Hill, or do you want Josh Allen here? Josh Allen is the only second-round QB on the board. He hasn't been picked yet.
You know exactly what I want, and I've been saying it for weeks.
Josh Allen to the Dolphins. Okay, done.
Yep.
Next up is the Chargers. Ryan picked Baker Mayfield in round 1. Do you want to get a safety here in round 2, or do you want to get like a cornerback / safety like Holton Hill who can play both spots?
I'm going to go, I like Holton Hill at that position just because when it gets the Chargers depth too. And I feel like that's also a team that gets hit with injuries.
Yeah. Next up is did I skip the Chargers pick? I think the Chargers were supposed to skip. Yeah, the Chargers were 5-11. We had the Dolphins at 6-10. Doesn't matter. The Chargers will go Holton Hill. Thomas will go Josh Allen. Either way, it doesn't matter. The Browns are up with the Texans pick. And Joey said he wants the Browns to get multiple weapons, so they get Simmie Cobbs Jr. since he's the best player on the board. That's not how I have it in my mock draft, but I don't really care. Joey wants multiple weapons, so we'll give him multiple weapons. Number 41, the Bengals are on the clock. I'm guessing we're going with Jordan Whitehead, the Pitt safety. He had a first-round grade, then he got suspended for a DUI. Joey went on a rant about how these coaches need to order Ubers for their players or tell them to order Ubers. It was hilarious. And the Bengals like troublemakers, so we'll go. Should we just give them Whitehead since they need a safety? And they.
Yeah. Yep.
Next up, the Packers at 42. This is a tough pick, Thomas. Peter Kalembai out of Stanford. It would be a great fit for the Packers.
Peter Kalembai?
Yeah, I have a second-round grade on him.
Pair him up. Yeah, pair him up with his old buddy and teammate, Blake Martinez.
Awesome. Done. Next up at number 43, we have the Buffalo Bills. We gave the Buffalo Bills Jerome Baker here, but Ryan, you picked for the Bills in round 1. Do you want to go with Jerome Baker here, or do you want to give them Harold Landry here? Because Landry's the only player with a first-round grade on the board, but Buffalo's one position that they're strong at is defensive end. So this is a tough pick for that reason.
I think Landry should move to a linebacker, honestly.
Who would be the best available offensive guard right now?
We have third-round grades on both Wyatt Teller and Will Hernandez, but both are available if you want to reach for a guard here in round 2.
Oh, God. All right. You know.
Or you could take Martez
what.
Ivy out of Florida as a guard here. We have a late second on him.
You know, I think I'll go with Martez Ivy. I want to be able to give Tyrod some protection and depth in the future.
All right. Next up here is Buffalo picked at 43. Number 44 is the Cowboys. I could give them Harold Landry, but they already got Bradley Chubb in the first round. So I'll play it simple, stupid, and I'll go Jerome Baker as an outside linebacker to replace Anthony Hitchens. So they get Chubb, they get Baker. I didn't think Baker was on the board, even though I mocked them Armani Watts, and they could use another safety. So I'm going to go Jerome Baker for the Cowboys here. Number 45 is the Jaguars. They need to get a weapon for Lamar. The best weapon on the board is Deontay Burnett out of USC. Went to the same college as Marquez Lee. Do they take him here?
Whose pick is that?
Ryan picked Lamar in the first round.
So is this Ryan's pick
Yes.
or mine?
This is Ryan's pick.
Okay.
Who's the best available player right now?
Harold Landry's the best available player, but the Jaguars are stacked at defensive end. Deontay Burnett would be a weapon to replace Allen Robinson if he leaves in free agency, and I figure if you give the Jaguars Lamar in round 1, you got to give him a weapon in round 2 to replace Robinson.
You know, I feel like the wide receiver class is going to be fairly okay, but who would be the top 3 best wide receivers right now?
Deontay Burnett out of USC, who had 100-yard games against Western Michigan, Texas, and Stanford, is currently my top receiver on the board. We just had a wide receiver run end with Kirk, with Ridley, with all of those guys getting picked early in the second round.
I think Cedric Wilson would be the next best receiver from Boise State.
I don't have him in my draft game at the moment, but I'll make sure to watch his tape immediately following the show.
All right, who do you have on your draft game after Burnett?
Equanimous St. Brown is still on the board. Equanimous St. Brown. I have a late second on him because he hasn't produced consistently, but we'll go with him.
I had written an article about him a couple of months ago. I remember him. I like St. Brown. I do.
So the Jaguars get St. Brown here. Next up at number 46 is the Raiders. I gave them Archie Lewis, and I picked for them. We'll give them the next best offensive tackle in the Raiders need a linebacker though, and Ryan picked, it was Ryan who picked for the Raiders, and giving Ryan back-to-back picks just does not seem fair. So I'm going to give the Raiders the best linebacker on the board here, and inside linebacker, Roquan Smith out of Georgia. We'll give them that. And then I think the next team up after the Raiders is the Ravens, who Thomas picked for. Ty Johnson out of Maryland is on the board. So is Nick Chubb. But you could also get a weapon like Deontay Burnett out of USC, who Ryan passed on. What do you want to do here?
I don't know who is Johnson who?
Ty Johnson. He's a Maryland running back. He's the best running back on the board. And the Ravens can pick him.
I haven't seen him. So I'll give the Ravens Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb to the Ravens. They pass on the hometown kid, even though he's ranked higher. Number 48, the Buffalo Bills. They are on the clock here, Ryan, and you can pick for the Bills with the Rams selection. I think I picked for I forget. Which one of us picked for the Rams? Thomas picked for the Rams in round 1. So do you want to make this pick, or should Ryan make this pick? Because this is the Rams pick, but they traded it to Buffalo. I haven't made a pick in a while.
I'll do it.
All right.
What are their needs?
LaShawn McCoy they might cut LaShawn McCoy after this year. They could use Ty Johnson. I mocked him to Buffalo, but
I thought you said the Rams needed this pick.
the Rams traded this pick in the Sammy Watkins deal.
Oh.
This is Buffalo's pick, but they got it from a trade with the Rams.
Oh, so the pick is the Rams?
The Rams traded this pick to Buffalo. I'm just going to take Ty Johnson because this is too confusing.
Okay.
Moving on to number 49, I gave the Cardinals Cortland Sutton at this spot, but he's gone. We just give him Burnett. We give Mason a weapon in Burnett here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's really the only thing we can do. I know Ryan picked for the Cardinals, but that's pretty logical at that spot. Number 50, Vita Vea. I mocked him to the I can't remember what team I mocked him to. I think it was the Falcons. I mocked him as a 3-down defensive tackle. The Falcons really need a guard, but yeah, we'll go with Vita Vea. This is unbelievable. Harold Landry is still on the board at number 51. This is unbelievable. Harold Landry should be long gone by now, but the Saints don't pick here. The 49ers do, and all the running backs are gone. The free agents, the 49ers lose Aaron Lynch and Elvis Dumerville to free agency. The 49ers say, you know what, screw it. Let's take Harold Landry here because he's the only first-round talent on the board, or they go with someone else. Because Harold Landry with Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster could be scary good down the road.
Yeah, whose pick is this?
I don't remember. Who picked for the Saints in round 1? I think it was you, Thomas.
I think it was Ryan. Or was it?
Yeah, I thought I picked somebody to succeed underneath Drew Brees. I thought.
No, Ryan. Thomas picked Rashaan Evans in round 1. Remember with the Saints pick?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I did choose.
So this 49ers pick is tough. Should I just give them Harold Landry because he's the only first-round prospect left on the board and he needs to be picked by now?
Yeah,
I will.
51. Yeah, we made Harold Landry wait 50. So Harold Landry fell out of the top 50. That's the huge shocker. We'll finish round 2, and then we're going to call it a show and quickly mention the top 5 players that fell to round 3. Number 51, I think this is the Broncos' second round pick here at 50. Yeah, because Vita Vea. 52 was the Marquez Haynes. We mocked him to I'm just trying to remember where I put Marquez Haynes, the edge player. I think we mocked him to the Lions. Yeah, the Lions are on the clock. We'll give them Marquez Haynes out of Ole Miss, and he's an outside linebacker. He fits what they want to do perfectly. And Denver is back on the clock here at 53, Ryan. The Broncos, I can't remember what you did with the Broncos in the first round. Did you go offensive line?
I paired Connor Williams.
Connor Williams. So you already went offensive line. So you probably want a defensive player here. I'm just looking to see who's on the board. Armani Watts is a safety. He's on the board. There's another offensive tackle, Brian O'Neill. Lorenzo Carter's a 34 outside linebacker. Sean Dion Hamilton's the top inside linebacker, but Malik Jefferson, who I have a third-round grade on, is still there. So you could go with Connor Williams and reunite Malik and Connor in Denver.
Who would be the best available quarterback right now?
The best available quarterback, we have Falk and Browning, but we have third-round grades on them now, so they're both reaches at
Browning.
this point.
I want Browning to Denver. I like his accuracy. I like how he.
Browning
Even though he kind of I guess you'd say has that bad trajectory, I feel like he would probably develop well. And at this point, I'm willing. Denver just needs to get a quarterback.
Okay,
at this point.
Perfect. Next up, we have the Colts, and I'm going to give them another outside linebacker to pair with their first-round pick in Arquano and Lorenzo Carter out of Georgia. So they double up at outside linebacker. Next up, we have the Jets. They have the Seahawks second-round pick. So the Jets, they haven't taken a quarterback yet, which is unreal. They took Bryce Love. They took a receiver. Do the Jets get Luke Falk here and reach for him even though he's a third-rounder? Or are we going to give the Jets someone like Will Clapp, the center out of LSU, because they do need a center, and Clapp's the best player on the board here at 37.
Give him the center.
All right. They get the center, Will Clapp. So next up, we have the Vikings. They could get Armani Watts to pair with Harrison Smith here at free safety.
Do it.
Do you want to do that, Ryan? Your Vikings are up. Or do you want to get an offensive lineman here? because there's a few good ones. You went Deron Payne round 1. This is tough because a lot of the top players on the board are either safeties or corners.
Armani Watts is too good to pass up.
All right. I agree. He's the best player on the board. And since Ryan has not answered, we'll give the Vikings Armani Watts. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say Armani Watson. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Next up at number 55, the Carolina Panthers. They went wide receiver round 1. The best player on the board, the best 2 players on the board are offensive tackles Brian O'Neill and Jack Campos. But the Panthers don't need an offensive tackle, so we'll go to Ohio State, and we'll give the Panthers Denzel Ward, who I actually mocked to the Panthers in the 2nd round. The next team on the clock is the Washington Redskins. I gave them Sean Dion Hamilton at this point, but I think we gave I can't remember. We gave the Redskins Wonecki in the 1st round. We can go Sean Dion Hamilton here to speed things up if you want. I doubt the Reds, with Washington's offensive tackles both being extended, I doubt they go that route. So I'm guessing that's just the obvious pick. Next up is Pittsburgh. Does the Steelers reach for Luke Falk here in the late 2nd round, or do they, because they do need a quarterback in case Big Ben decides to retire after this year. Do they get Luke Falk here, even though it's a reach, even though he's the 96th best player on my board?
Yes, give him Luke Falk.
All right, so
I think he would be good for Pittsburgh.
Luke Falk to Pittsburgh at I have him going to the Bills at 95 in my mock with the Eagles pick, but he goes to Pittsburgh in this scenario, even though it is a bit of a reach. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans. They don't need offensive tackle help. They don't need a defensive lineman. We'll give them Quinn Blanding. They are in the market for a safety. He fits what they want to do. Tampa Bay, who picked for Tampa Bay? I think it was Thomas who picked for Tampa Bay. Brian O'Neill and Jack Campos are the top 2 players on the board. They need an offensive tackle. You want O'Neill out of Pittsburgh or Jack Campos, the Iowa State left tackle here for Tampa Bay?
I don't really know any of these guys.
Do you want to go with a different route? Taven Bryan, Adonis Alexander, Michael Gallup, Mason Cole, Dante Pettis. I can keep reading off names until you want someone. Chase Hansen, Utah safety's on the board here. Chase Hansen, the Utah safety.
Oh, yeah, give him Hansen.
All right, the Buccaneers, they took another safety out of Texas A&M, Justin Evans, but they get another one in Chase Hansen here for depth purposes. Number 61 is the – I think Tampa Bay was picking at 61. That's right. So that means number 62 belongs to the Chiefs. The Chiefs get to make their first pick of the draft, and the Chiefs need a weapon, but there's no weapons on the board. This is an awful situation for the Chiefs to be in. But Michael Gallup out of Colorado State, who is 2nd in receiving yards, he goes to the Chiefs. Sorry, Patriots, I can't give you guys a receiver yet, but the Eagles are on the clock here. The top players on the board are both offensive linemen, but I know Thomas doesn't want to go that route with the Eagles. They could groom one of these guys for the future, though. They wouldn't have to start them. They could groom one of these guys for the future. Or they could go with another weapon, or maybe even a running back here, depending on who the top.
I want to give the Eagles a corner.
They got Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones last year. Adonis Alexander is on the board, though.
Oh, never mind then. I forgot about those guys. Just give them a tackle.
Brian O'Neill out of Pittsburgh, then, and that leaves the Patriots with number 64. This is tough because the Patriots have a good offensive tackle situation. I don't think, and we drafted Garcia and McDermott, so I don't think we go that route. We also have our defensive tackles under contract. Taven Bryan's a guy who's been talked about as a riser. I'm debating whether to double up at cornerback for the Patriots because I gave the Patriots Oliver in round 1. I really don't want to double up at corner with the Patriots, but I might have to. I'm going to go Taven Bryan, the guy Nick Kendall told me about. Nick Kendall, who wrote for the Broncos and told us Garrett Bowles was a top 10 talent last year. I'm gonna listen to him. He's telling me Taven Bryan is that good. I'm gonna go ahead and mock him to the Patriots and put him in a Lawrence Guy type of role, which means Jack Campos was the #1 player on the board in round 3. The only other second-round talent that fell to the 3rd round is Adonis Alexander. So other than that, pretty much everyone else who was in our top 64 got picked in the first 2 rounds. Oh, never mind. I'm taking that back. Clelin Ferrell made it to – Clelin Ferrell, the 10th Clemson edge player, made it to 64. How the hell did we miss him? We all deserve to be kicked in the nads for missing Clelin Ferrell and forgetting he was on the board. Ugh,
My ball's already hurt.
That changes everything. It really does. How the hell did we miss Clelin Ferrell? We all deserve to be Rochambeaued for that. Dabo Sweeney has the right to vote Rochambeau us for that. Okay? We'll end the show with Dabo Sweeney Rochambeauing us. And Thomas, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to what's his face, John Dunsworth, who played Jim Leahy on Trailer Park Boys. He passed away this past Monday. So rest in peace, Leahy. All you ever wanted was peace for your trailer park. And with that said, stay frosty. San Diego, Oregon, Pennsylvania, wherever Ryan lives. And Jason Bantle, I'm still upset with you for choosing the Jets. And I'm Thomas Coburn signing off. Bye-bye, Trump haters. And that's Chris Ransom, Draft Utopia Special Extraordinaire. And Ryan Romero, once again, our very, very special guest. And ciao.
Yep. And we're going to leave the Google Hangout with the draft game. Jack Campos fell to round 3. I'm taking back the Patriots pick I made with Taven Bryan and taking Ferrell. I don't think I can take back, though. So Dabo Sweeney, Rochambeau, all of us here from the Utopia of Sports.